Thanks again.
Thank you, Wayne and James, and everyone here that's out supporting the cause. The best cause that I believe in, the cause that I've devoted my life to, and clearly you all have devoted quite a bit of time today to coming together to do together what none of us can do alone, which is drive up the employment for people with disabilities. I know I was truly impressed this morning as an employer sitting at the table doing interviewing and mock interviewing with a variety of candidates who are out there learning and presenting themselves. You can tell that they were well prepared and that they've got a lot of interest and passion about getting into the workforce. And it's really exciting to see the people here from all the businesses that Wayne acknowledged are coming out. So pat yourselves on the back for being on the good team. It's folks like you all that probably don't even need to hear the message of the things we're going to talk about, yet at the same time, I spend my free time, I don't have much of a life outside of work, so I spend my free time looking at items of interest regarding disability legislation. It's what I do, it's what I'm interested in, it's what got me involved in the first place. Emily Coder and Jeff Lambert are here with me, and Jeff, I promise I'll give you time to eat later, but Jeff is going to help me with the visuals of what we're looking at. I've given you all a couple of handouts that just kind of serve as the basis of some updates regarding the Americans with Disabilities Act, the proposed rule change for the OFCCP, Federal Government Contractor Regulations, which I know many of the folks here are interested in. Those of you with the government have already been part of the enhanced hiring initiatives, the selective placement process for people with disabilities. But I think everyone here knows that now that the ADA has been amended to be more specific as to who is a covered person with a disability, the Department of Labor's Office of Federal Contractor Compliance Programs is now putting some teeth behind their existing affirmative action rules regarding recruiting and hiring people with disabilities. And there's a brand new rule pending that, according to the Office of Federal OFCCP, can I say that to pretend without thank you? I'll be here all day if I say all the initials. According to the OFCCP, the proposed rule enhancements may go into effect in April. Now, that was an announcement put out on December the 12th that the proposed rule enhancements might be taking place. So how does all of this new ADA definition, more contractor compliance, and finding people with disabilities, how does that all affect our day-to-day lives? Have you guys found that there's more of a top-down interest in bringing people with disabilities into the workforce? I know I've been talking with some of you prior to the presentation. You know, I know personally my phone at the Sierra Group is ringing with people saying, we've got to find candidates with disabilities. What do we have to do? Can we get training? Hey, can you be my linkage partner? I mean, it's like, hey, can you be my Valentine? What does it really mean to have a linkage partner? We've all invoked rehab. OVR has been linkage partners to every employer for as long as OVR has been in business. That's what you do, right, Rob? You reach out and you link with business to help them find candidates. Well, let me back up for a minute to the Americans with Disabilities Act amendment. I gave you all what I think is a really easy read on the updates to the ADA that passed January 1st of 2009. I think it's easy because I co-authored it with a lawyer. She used to be a special ed teacher, so she speaks English. I only speak English. I don't speak lawyer because I'm not one. So we co-authored an article that just took a practical look at what the changes are to, and you guys have a handout with the hyperlinks, and better than that, I will give this to Kathy, who will email you the handout where you can click and get to the resources. No need to take notes or be bored with PowerPoint over lunch. So all this information will arrive in your email then later. But when you look at the ADA, the reason it was amended in 2009 was that more than 70% of cases brought for discrimination under the ADA were thrown out of court at summary judgment before they were even heard The reason being failure to meet the definition of disabled. If you were a person, a cancer survivor like I am, and you're completely free of the disease, you were no longer a covered person. If you're a person with diabetes and you were taking your insulin and your levels were where they should be, you were not a person covered under the ADA. If you were a veteran, you went off to war, you lost a limb due to serving your country, you came back, you got a prosthetic device, you're able to walk again, you're even able to run, you were not covered as a person with a disability. Well, that was kind of silly when you really thought of it, because the discrimination can certainly apply in any of those instances. So that was one of the impetuses behind the reauthorization of the ADA. And the other thing, there are a lot of HR and recruiters in the room here. Back me up. The old ADA, you tried to figure out what the heck are they talking about? What is a major life activity and what is a major bodily function? For me, a major life activity is tomorrow. It's Valentine's Day. Am I getting flowers? I mean, there are like certain things that are major to all of us that really were never clear to HR. Well, as you can see on page 10 of your handout, where this will come to you electronically later, major life activities are now clearly defined as an activity that constitutes caring for oneself, performing a manual task, speaking, seeing, breathing, hearing, learning, reading, eating, sleeping, concentrating, walking, thinking, standing, lifting, bending, communicating, and working. If you have an impairment, a physical or psychological disorder, or a cosmetic disfigurement that affects one or more of your major bodily symptoms, and you can't perform one of those major life activities, then you're likely to be a covered person with a disability. So what are major bodily functions? They're listed in the top middle of page 10 of your handout. Functions of the immune system, normal cell growth, digestive, bowel, bladder, neurological, brain, respiratory, circulatory, endocrine, reproductive functions. The addition of functions of the immune system in normal cell growth indicates the intent to include as disabled those with HIV or cancer without regard to manifestation of the disease at the current time. Now, a lot of business groups said, well, my God, everybody's covered. If you wear eyeglasses, you're a covered person. Well, it goes on to explain that just wearing a normal prescription to correct your lenses does not render you to have an impairment of a major bodily function. So combine the two. Take these paragraphs. Most business people that I deal with on a regular basis said, thank God that at least there's a non-exhaustive list that I can go to, because guess what? If an employee comes to you because they're having trouble seeing, because they have a visual impairment, and it's affecting their ability to concentrate for 8 hours at work, wouldn't you rather accommodate them than lose them? You now can go to the ADA and accommodate them through the interactive process. The ADA expansion, as I like to call the ADAAA, went on to talk about the interactive process in a little bit more detail. When you talk about the interactive process, and on page 12 at the top left, we have a listing of the various functions that are covered under the interactive process, the 4 steps. Step number 3, identify and compare accommodation options. That one gets overlooked all the time. Well-meaning companies analyze the job for essential functions. Of course we do. That's how we hire, right? We know what needs to be done. Many people consult with the disabled employee regarding those limitations, that's number 2, and how that person thinks they could be accommodated. But let's remember, a person with a disability is not expected to be an expert in adaptive technology, ergonomics, and accommodation. They're not expected to be an expert in the ADA and what is reasonable to ask for. They do have a preference for what they want, which is the 4th prong of the interactive process, but most businesses that we see get in trouble for not properly accommodating under the ADA are missing prong number 3. They are not identifying and comparing accommodation options. We work with companies across the country after they're in trouble. The ADA suit was filed, or the EEOC is walking down their back saying what hasn't happened yet. Most of them are not realizing Prong 3 means, as an employer, you have every right to go out there and do an assessment of what's going to work. And if the candidate's supported by OVR or VRE or another agency, they may very well partner with you and send the re-of engineer out to do the assessment. Now I'm going to admit to shameless self-serving plug, the Sierra Grove Inc. has a re-of engineering department. It's been in place for over 20 years now, and we go out and do those assessments, and OVR often sends us. But in that work, we're out there fixing the problem before it happens and keeping the job or bringing the person the job, which is really why we're all together today, because we're on the same page. But it's when a company thinks that they can only follow 1, 2, and 4, that they don't go ahead and analyze and identify what accommodations are out there, they end up in trouble. Somebody recently, we're working on a case in another state, the person was provided with Dragon, naturally speaking, as an accommodation, because it's what she asked for. It didn't work for her, and she didn't have any training, and it didn't at all let her do the essential functions of the job. And the employer says, hey, I gave her what she asked for. They didn't bother to look around to see what was out there that they could have given her, that could have saved her job, so now her lawyer's talking to them about that. That's never where you want to be. And I don't think it was the true intent of the ADA in being amended to make that happen. Laws and regulations exist so that the largest group of unemployed Americans, including disabled veterans, have a chance at getting work. That's what we're all committed to, or we wouldn't be here. Now, when you think about the ADA and its strengthening, I kind of love, kind of hate that the federal government, hopefully folks at the U.S. Department of Labor won't go back and tell on me, but I kind of love and I kind of hate that the government is now saying to any business who is a contractor, $10,000 or more a year in services, anybody that contracts with the government now has to abide by, in greater measure, where they're looking to cite you during a desk audit proactively if you're not affirmatively recruiting, interviewing, hiring, retaining, and promoting workers with disabilities. Now, the mandate that was put on the federal government to hire more folks with disabilities, I believe, was 1%. Was it 1% or 2%? It was goal, 2% for hiring for the federal government. Now, here's where, as a business owner, I have to say, like, hey, no fair. The same federal government tells me, as a private federal government contractor, 7% of my workforce should be people with disabilities. Where does that come in? Well, they claim it came out of the census data. So, okay, fine. It's not a mandate, this 7% goal, but guess what is a goal? It's a goal that's going to be tracked and measured too, if and only if the enhanced rules about people with disabilities, in fact, we can go to the OCCP section. If those enhanced rules pass in April of this year, there are going to be a lot of new things to consider and track regarding recruiting and hiring candidates with disabilities. The goal, I think, is the least of our worries. It's the proactive data gathering. And here's the biggest, in my opinion, here's two biggest things we should talk about should the OFCCP rules be changed. Are we asking, in a manner that doesn't violate the ADA, whether or not the applicants who are coming to us are people with disabilities? And are we keeping track of it? Because if you're not, because you thought you shouldn't ask until you hired them, how in the heck are you going to fill out the mandatory form for OFCCP when they sit down to do a desk audit and they say, how many people with disabilities have you recruited? I don't know, we're not supposed to ask. You are allowed to ask people to voluntarily disclose. And if the rules change like they're proposing they change, they're going to mandate that a federal government contractor in the recruiting process ask that voluntary question up front. Kind of counterintuitive to the original ADA training we got, which kind of focused on don't ask, if they tell you, they tell you, and kind of counterintuitive to what those of us in the room that are voc rehab professionals have told people for years. So the folks that need to track this, please know that on the VR side, we're out there going, hey, tell your applicant to fill out that, fill out that self-disclosure, particularly if the company is a federal government contractor. It's like getting a, pass to go to the front of the line. They're going to want to look and bring you in. Now, obviously, you still have to hire based on qualification. Yes?
So should we have a self-disclosure section on our application?
A voluntary self-disclosure.
We have it regarding veteran status, but we don't have it for just...
There are two excellent resources on that. There is an OPM voluntary self-disclosure page that the government uses that is being recommended for contractors. There's also, in my opinion, a more user-friendly language model that I happen to like that is in the comment section under the OFCCP site. And again, this is the section that has all the meat with frequently asked questions. That link will be emailed to you guys, and then go in there and dig down and you'll find everything I'm talking about. But the American Association of People with Disabilities, AAPD, during the comment period, suggested what I think are some excellent language models to use around your voluntary self-disclosure question. They also make it clear that it's voluntary. They make it clear why it's being asked, and they include the ADA definition of whether or not you have a disability. Because don't laugh. A lot of people reading that go, I don't know if I have a disability. Because you don't know what you don't know. Some of us know. An apparent disability, most people know that they have. All the covered people that we talked about that have a bodily function impairment that affects a major life activity, there are candidates out there that don't know they are a covered person. Therefore, you've got people in your existing workforce who are people with disabilities who have never self-disclosed because you never asked. Well, guess what? Should the new rule pass, there will be a mandatory yearly census of your existing workforce asking for voluntary self-disclosure. And again, if you use, in my opinion, only my opinion, the AAPD language model, it's user-friendly, it's non-threatening. It speaks to a person. It's also a model that's put out by the American Association of People with Disabilities. So it's people first. Nothing wrong with the OPM questionnaire, which is technically perfect. It's just a little more, maybe intimidating to read for the candidate with a disability. They might feel better, and you might feel better based on all your person-first training that you've gone through. You want to respect the candidates. You don't want to make them feel like you're only talking to them because they have a disability. However, if you're talking to them and they have a disability and you're a federal government contractor, you need to keep track of it. Now, guess what else they've done? They're now making your relationship with Kathy and Tasha and everybody here at OVR, they're making it mandatory if you want them to be your linkage partner. They're not making it mandatory, but they are making OVR a recommended linkage partner. And you have to have 3. Why 3? I don't know. I didn't read the rules. I commented on them. I read them. But they're saying you have to have 3. And probably because, teaching, training, do things in 3s. You can remember things in 3s. They are making it mandatory, like the VEVRA Act, that you post your job on the state career link. So that will be mandatory. That does not automatically put you in touch with OVR, even though it's all one big state. You still want to have a person that you're talking to at OVR. And then you need to find an employment network or another community provider. Congratulations, you met us today. You've got 2. You've got OVR, you've got the Sierra group. Go out there and go on the website, find a head, find INCLUS, find one of the other community providers, and make sure you are proactively giving them your employment needs. Linkage partner has yet to be fully fleshed out, but it is predicted that it will most certainly go beyond saying, I told Janet at the Sierra group to check my website. That's not going to constitute a partnership. They are currently, because remember, people with disabilities have been covered under the affirmative action part of OFCCP for years and years and years. When President Obama was elected and put Patricia Shu in as director of that department, she increased her desk side auditors by 20% and said go looking for violations of disability and veteran hiring practices. People are getting cited, they're getting the letters in the mail. That means when the desk auditor comes out, they want to know who do you deal with to get candidates with disabilities. And guess what the lawyers do in the desk audit work for the businesses say? They're saying, give me the name and their phone number. You can't say, here's the website. And when they call me and say, do you interact regularly with Jim over at XYZ company? If I say, Jim who? He might be cited. So you know what that means? That means even though everything is now internet-based, internet-tracked, apply on the website, we're back to relationships. Because you've got to prove a linkage partnership exists. And the only way you can really do that is by proving a relationship. Is this hard to do? What do you guys think? Hard, easy? I think for those of you in the room, it's going to allow you to really find more candidates, which is what you all want to do, and you know the good reasons anyway. For your competitors out there that aren't bothering, you know, pat yourself on the back, you just leapt ahead. There are people out there, literally, there are huge national companies scrambling as fast as they can. When they read that December 12th prediction that the new rules might be signed into law in April, oh my goodness. People are asking what I call ADA 101 questions. People think the ADA is being reauthorized. I mean, it's really kind of funny what's not known. But I can tell you, honest to God, the answers to the questions, the fact sheets that are in here, it so makes sense. Go to the NPRM proposed highlights. It's going to tell you every single thing. There's about 6-7 pages of this. It keeps taking you back. Go to this link, click on it, look through your current hiring practices. Make sure that you have something that you're documenting that hits each one of these, and you're golden. It's straightforward. It's not difficult. But if you don't do it and you're a federal contractor, you know, those desk audit letters come out anyway. They're going to be coming out faster. You will be tracked on numbers now because they're going to try to see if that 7% across the board all job hires goal is actually a realistic prediction. Kathy, Ralph, anyone, anything that I've missed on that, or can we move on to a tool real quick?
Dan, I'm just going to add to your excellent presentation that one of the considerations for a private contract is that 7% of the workforce should be PWD. But like the federal agencies, 2% of that 7, or 2% within the target, should be the targeted disability groups.
Yeah.
So they're saying that individuals who are most likely not able to access jobs because they may require job coaching, additional onboarding supports, and they may have disabilities such as a developmental disability or intellectual disability, blindness, double amputee, there's a whole list of those. The OPM form kind of gives you that a little bit more in a defined way. So anyway, just adding that clarification.
Yes.
2% targeted disabilities will be part of that federal contracting group. And 1 out of every 4 businesses in the U.S. is a federal contractor.
I know.
So we're talking.
I know. We're talking about a large group of people. When you first hear federal contractor, when I first read about this rule, I'm like, oh, the defense contractors, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I read it. I'm a federal government contractor. I meet the qualification, you know. Many companies actually are, and a lot of them just haven't thought about it yet. So the good news is the people you met this morning, you did a lot of recruiting. You know, I count up how many people I talked to. Mark it down. You know, everybody's got their own tracking systems, but you want to make sure you're tracking. You want to make a record that you participated in today's event because that's one of your outreach requirements. And when you're looking for candidates, I will tell you, given the fact that our phone started ringing and ringing and ringing about 1.5 years ago when the proposed rules were being batted around, and when those desk audit letters were going up and up, we were approached so often for our national contacts with candidates who are people with disabilities that we actually recently partnered with the National Job Board company, a DCO, who does diversity job boards across the country. And together with a DCO, on October 18th, we launched recruitdisability.org. The whole purpose of it is to invite the tens of thousands of job seekers that were already in our database and all the job seekers that we meet on a daily basis to post their resumes in the Recruit Disability Job Board, and the businesses can go there. $99 gets you 3 postings and a check on your OFCCP compliance. It was never my desire to do that. I believe that placement should be able to happen organically like it always did, but businesses were clamoring for an automated tool. The new laws and regulations were demanding it, and people with disabilities have a right to be highlighted on a niche job board, just like nurses and healthcare providers and other individuals. So when we were approached by a DCO, I said, why not take what we have, use what we have, because really, it's working together. The job board also, and it's being updated regularly, it also has currently some articles that are featured articles about disability. You can go there. That's being updated. Jeff, who's working with Sierra Group right now, is helping me make the Recruit Disability on Twitter and Facebook come to life with podcasts, articles, content, information. I'm going to be tweeting out the link and the information to the OFCCP frequently asked questions section we just talked about, because you have to dig kind of far in the website to get to what, in my opinion, is the most straightforward explanation of most of what's happening. So I'll tweet that out in hopefully, how many characters? 140. I can't talk in less than 140 characters. That's why I'm looking to help me with this. But getting the information out there, sharing it, we invite you all to take advantage of the Recruit Disability website if you have any questions. You know of a job seeker and they're talking with you and you're not going to hire them, send them to the website so the resume is available. You want to post some of your jobs, you want to try it out. Samantha or Emily from our company would be happy to talk with you. So, as I always like to say, it's only working together that lets us continue to chip away at the high rate of unemployment for people with disabilities. And I'm honored to be in the presence of all of you today who know that and are doing it. So thank you for your commitment.
Thank you, Janet. In about 5 more minutes, we're going to have another group coming through.